Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This is Locked On Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Robyn, Leaño, Karel Pavlock right beside me as we get ready to talk Edmonton Oilers versus Arizona Coyotes at the second home game of the year, the fourth game of the season for the Arizona Coyotes. This is going to be an interesting one. First time going against a Pacific Division team, and we'll see how this goes. Karel, preseason Coyotes had some good runs against Pacific Division teams. I mean, yes, it was against Anaheim and LA mostly, and then some good win against Vegas. But let's be real, like we're comparing apples to oranges here, preseason to regular season.
Yeah, definitely. And we're also comparing like the Kings and the Ducks to the Edmonton Oilers, who are probably a better team this year than them. I think most people would generally agree with that. This is actually the first time the Coyotes are meeting the Oilers since February 4th of 2020, which is just kind of insane when you think about it. We're so used to seeing the Oilers, but with COVID and just last season being what it was, haven't seen him in a long time.
I made that same. I think I made that same reference for another team. I think one of the first two games of the year, where I said it was the first
Buffalo
time.
probably.
Buffalo was there. It was the first time playing Buffalo since 2019. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's a little bit different just because the Oilers are in the same. They were up until this season, technically last, in the same division as the Coyotes. We'd gotten so used to seeing them like 6 times a year, and the Coyotes tended to do pretty well. They knew like the Oilers inside and out. They were able to really like shut down Connor McDavid to an extent. The last game, that 2020 game, the Coyotes won 3-0, and I mean, looking at the Edmonton Oilers now, you don't see them as the type of team that's going to be losing a lot of 3-0 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, the Edmonton Oilers are 3-0 on the season. They had just most recently, just on Tuesday, beat the Anaheim Ducks 6-5. Their previous scores of their games were a 5-2 win over the Flames, a 3-2 win shootout win over the Vancouver Canucks.
So maybe a little bit of a closer kind of games there, except for that Calgary one, which I'm sure that gets up their anger. But the Oilers aren't necessarily a juggernaut like their record would suggest. They're winning some close games, and I mean, let's talk about it right away. They're going to be dealing with some injuries. They had quite a few going into the season, and now their starting goaltender, 39-year-old former Coyote Mike Smith, is out for what seems to be a week.
Yeah, they put him on the injured reserve. So then, obviously, that means at least a week in the NHL. Obviously, every sport has injured reserve means something different. In the NHL, means about at least a week.
Yeah,
and that's being optimistic most of the time if they're on injured reserve.
I think they have to miss 3 games for injured reserve. Don't quote me on that because I'm trying to remember it like offhand. I don't memorize the injured reserve list. But especially with this schedule, like being more condensed with the All-Star break and the Olympics, that's gonna mean like more games in a week.
I'm looking it up right now. Injured reserve list: a player who has an injury that renders him physically unable for a minimum of 7 days. Once he is on the list,
There's not a game requirement?
A player placed in injury reserve is ineligible to complete an NHL games for a period of not less than 7 days.
Gotcha. I thought it was a game requirement. So yeah, this is why you don't quote me on that. The minutia of the contract between the NHL and the Players Association has some blind spots in my mind. I haven't read the CBA recently.
And like there's a lot of stuff in the NHL CBA that we forget about.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many different things. Where it's like, oh yeah, until we have to talk about it, we forget about it.
Yeah.
Um, and then eventually, if you are part of a team that ends up having to talk about it so much, then it becomes like ingrained in your system, and you keep talking about it.
Absolutely. I remember like at least once a year there's going to be a moment where I need to go to the player rule book for that season, and I always make sure to do a new one because they're always updating the rules and like quoting verbatim like last year it was like the icing rule, like to like break down a play and be like, all right, I know you thought this should have been an icing for the Coyotes. It was not. Here's X, Y, and Z reason why, and just kind of like going deep on that. Like these, I think a lot of people don't realize that these are contracts between players. They are legally binding, and they have a lot of details in there that are just impossible to remember. If I knew the ins and outs of the CBA, I would be hired by a team to just be their CBA consultant because I think everyone's got one. Just someone who like the lore master who knows all the rules.
Hey, and to get paid maybe a decent amount of money about that, maybe get paid 75 grand a year just to do that. Like,
Yeah. And then if you find like an insane like loophole for something, getting like a 20 like $1,000 bonus, be like, yeah, you won us a game. Here's extra money. We're all millionaires. That would be fun.
I'm gonna try to not think of the Tampa Bay Lightning for that, but
Oh. The cap specialists. I would just love to like see their offices and just see what it looks like. In my mind, it's either pristine, like a surgeon, or it looks like a wizard from a fantasy movie. There's just like scrolls everywhere. I don't know why there's scrolls, but there are. There's like player yearbooks and like the original contract for a building. It seems fun. But yeah. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Oilers good. Definitely have some weaknesses in defense and goaltending. And honestly, I think it's probably something that the Coyotes can exploit this game.
yeah, I think it definitely is something that the Coyotes can exploit. And especially a Coyotes team that would feel a little bit hungry. They had that I mean they're still winless, and that last game against St. Louis I think is going to be leaving a bitter taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
Especially because of the that 5 goal second period that they just want to have back.
Yeah, the Coyotes are definitely going to be the hungrier team. The Oilers, we were talking about this before we started recording, are going to be playing on Friday as well. So we do sometimes see teams kind of maybe trying to leave a little bit in the tank, especially
Mhm.
against a tougher opponent the next day. I can see this being the Coyotes' first win. Then again, I said that about the Blues, so who knows?
I did not say about that the Blues. I kind of knew it was going to be that something was going to go down that way, but I'm with you though. I think this can be the Coyotes' first win. Because
I mean, the Edmonton Oilers traded for Duncan Keith during the offseason. And no offense to Duncan Keith, he's had a phenomenal career. He has won multiple Stanley Cups. He is more accomplished than I will ever be in my life. Um, but he is on the decline. And I think like if we have a weak Oilers defense, weak goaltending, the Coyotes have shown that they can score somewhat, man. 4 goals. I could see them finally pulling one out tonight.
yeah, I do as well, and I think yeah, I just want to see that hungry team, and I want to see the not just the veterans, but I want to see the young guys get their opportunities too.
Yeah, definitely. And we will hopefully see that. We've heard a couple of roster changes that are going to be happening. Um, and I don't think we've heard anything about Soderstrom yet. The young player that I have been telling people to watch this year, so we could potentially be seeing him play his fourth straight game. I don't. We, are you kind of surprised to see Soderstrom doing four straight to start the season?
To be honest, I'm surprised he actually made the final roster.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to start the year in Tucson, but he's impressed and he's doing well. So, like, if there's no reason to send him down, then don't.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It seems like a good opportunity for him to keep showing what he can do, and kind of needs to work a little bit away from the puck, but definitely seems to be a good defenseman, a good pickup for the Coyotes.
Absolutely. Hey, we still got more to get to on this pregame show. Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers. That is set for tonight at 7 p.m. at Gila River Arena. I will be there covering it live. Super excited to be there. But we got more to get to. We still got to talk to maybe some players to watch out to on both sides, as well as just all their general predictions of how this game will go. All that coming up in just a moment.
We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all basketball and football action this season. Head over to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right, so back here on Locked On Coyotes, Robyn, Leaño, and Karel Pavlock, as we get ready to count down to the Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers once again tonight at 7 p.m. at the Gila River Arena. We still have quite a bit to talk about on this, about this game, and I mean, why don't we start off with some players to look out for on both sides? See what you're gonna, who's gonna be sticking out. I want to hear. I want to know from you first.
So a player that's going to be sticking out, he's going to be making his return to the Coyotes tomorrow, if everything goes according to plan, is Dmitry Yoshkin. Jose Romero actually kind of reported earlier today that he was injured during the offseason, like long before preseason began, which may have explained like his slow start during the preseason, slow start during game one. I do think he can be like a big piece of this team moving forward. I haven't seen it yet. I hope to see it tonight.
Yeah, Yashkin. I think he's a very anticipated player. A lot of people are waiting to see what he can do. We haven't seen we haven't got a chance to see quite a bit of him at all. So,
Yeah,
uh, to get his home debut to see how he can do there, like I'm sure a lot of fans are seeing this. Like, let's see what this kid from the KHL can do. If he can bring some excitement back to the ice.
yeah. And I do think there is a difference in talent between the KHL and the NHL. The NHL is a better league, but as we've seen in the past with players like Panarin and Kaprizov, like it's not an easy league by any means. It's still a professional hockey league. It's the biggest league in a very like influential hockey country.
It is
So
between the AHL and NHL in terms
yeah.
of overall talent. It is like it's like half a step between. It's just like so freaking close.
Yeah. So I do expect him to have a decent season in the NHL, hopefully. Like I don't expect him to completely crater. It's actually a little bit kind of like I'm a bit surprised to see him on the third line. I would have thought that he'd be maybe a little bit up there, more used to like generating offense. But as I told the SB Nation site Copper and Blue, Coyotes lines don't matter. They were asking me why Clayton Keller's on the third line. I'm like, I don't know. we can just relabel that line the first line, and it'll be exactly the same.
I mean, let's be real about lines. Because the way the Coyotes are built, that there is no like real true first line, second line, third line, like there is in every other team. In the first line for the Colorado Avalanche, for example, you know you're gonna have Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabriel Landeskog. Like that's a first line.
Yeah.
But like there's no way you can justify putting them in the third line. But in the case for the Coyotes, you can justify putting Clayton Keller on a third line because it's the for the Coyotes sense, it's just what the chemistry works in this sense.
Yeah, it's what the chemistry is. It's what kind of seems to be fitting. I do think they're maybe pushing Phil Kessel a little bit, so make sure that he is listed as a top line guy. It doesn't really seem to affect minutes. I remember last season when Tocchet put Schmaltz and Keller on the fourth line, and like there wasn't really a drop in minutes or anything significant. It was just like, no, this is the fourth line now, and we're like, okay, I guess we'll just pretend that this
Yep.
line, who's going to be doing every power play to start, is the fourth line. Sure, why not?
Yeah. You know a player that I want to pay attention to is the goaltender Karel Vejmelka. He's gonna be up against a offensive team from the Oilers that has been pretty strong, mainly because they have two of hockey's best scorers on the ice at once, and
Yeah,
Connor McDavid and Leaño. Can Vejmelka hold down the fort and keep this a competitive game?
it will definitely be tough. Both Draisaitl and McDavid have 8 points already. I think like after he got 105 points last year, like it's become a real serious question. Can Connor McDavid hit 150 points during the regular season this year? And I do not know, but I am terrified to find out because it's just insane. And Vejmelka, he looked solid against the Buffalo Sabres. He looked good in relief against the Blues. This is a different caliber of offense that he's going to be dealing with.
It is a much different caliber of offense. So, like, we'll see if he can hold down the fort, or if Carter Hutton might need to come in at any point.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting if Monday Vejmelka came in for Hutton. Today Hutton comes in for Vejmelka. That'll be fun.
The Coyotes in a nutshell. That would be the story right there. If that would be the case tonight, which I don't think it will be. I really don't. I got a lot of trust in Vejmelka of doing the job he needs to do to keep it a competitive game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think one of the things I noticed against the Buffalo Sabres is just how like cool and confident he is on the ice. He does not look like he's really shaken by anything. I mean, that's from like the TV, so it's possible he's like sweating bullets and like swearing under his breath the entire
But
time.
but again, the point you're making is even like let's say that if it seems that way based on the way he's playing, that is one of the most important aspects about being a goaltender in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Because there are some goaltenders, and I won't name them, but some goaltenders in the NHL who will crack under pressure the second something goes by them, and then it's done. It is done.
And I think what we're seeing a lot with the Coyotes is not necessarily the goaltender cracking, but the team in front of him.
Exactly.
Like the Hutton like 5 minute.
That wasn't his fault.
It wasn't.
I mean, partially, but it wasn't entirely his fault.
Like all of those goals were like the lead up was like a defensive breakdown that just can't happen. The team looked like they were playing like they were afraid, and they probably were. Now, as a goaltender, it is his job to occasionally make a save that he should not be able to make to keep the team in the game. But I also think just like the team is not necessarily confident in themselves and not confident in Hutton at this point, just because everyone's like really new. Like we keep saying this, there was like 9 people on the team last year that are on the team this year. It is a very new team. There is no chemistry between these players, or minimal chemistry from like previous. So I think like having a guy who they're like confident in is going to make the team in front of Vejmelka play a lot better. And I think that we're also going to see them get more confident in front of Hutton in the next few days, like as they get a chance to like practice with the guy and play with him.
It takes not only that, but it will take winning today, which we'll talk about too, as we make predictions coming up in just a second. Let's actually do that. So in just a sec, we'll actually make some predictions as well as take a look at the recent power rankings that the Locked On NHL group has put together for you guys to see where teams are set in the NHL power rankings among our hosts. We'll talk about all that in just a sec. But first, I'm going to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. The ever increasing number of makes and models is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to store all the parts that you need. So why endure offer pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? Is your Odyssey an LX or an EX? And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Why choose to spend 50, 30, or even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or car dealership when you can go to Rock Auto, a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer, and you can get everything you need there, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go and explore their website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. And while you're there, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, so now let's move on to get some predictions for this game. Before we do that, Karel, let's take a break from talking pregame for a little bit to get a little bit. Let's motivate some people here, right? Let's motivate some people.
I'm not sure how motivating this is going to be, but sure.
We got the power rankings. We got these. We're doing now for Locked On NHL. We are doing weekly power rankings where we take a look at where teams currently stand in the National Hockey League. So let's go ahead. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this as I put the graphic up. The Arizona Coyotes have dropped a rank. They were number 31 last week, and now they are number 32. And I mentioned this tank squad, but also let's be real too. Coyotes in 32, it makes them a lot more wanting to win a game today, especially when they're going up against the number 9 team in the NHL tonight, Edmonton Oilers, based off our network power rankings.
Yeah, and I do think it's insanely early, so I'm not sure like how much these power rankings will change, but we know the Coyotes are bad. The Coyotes know that they're bad, and they know that the Oilers are better, but they are a team with some significant weaknesses. I think, like you said, they're going to be a very motivated team. They're going to have a lot to play for. They're going to leave it all on the ice. Unlike the Oilers, who are playing tomorrow, they have a day off before they get to stay home and host the Islanders, which, 13 on the list. So still a good team, but like they're going to have that prep time. They're going to be able to go home to their own beds afterwards. They're going to sleep in their own beds tonight. So I think they have a pretty good chance.
Absolutely. One more thing that we'll address that I'll ask you just as we have this graphic still up on the YouTube page. Karel, anything on this list that is surprising to you?
Whew, that is surprising to me. I am surprised at how low the Montreal Canadiens are.
I mean, they started really bad.
They did. They did. They absolutely did start bad, but it's still really early. I thought there would be like a little bit of like carryover, like enthusiasm for the team that went to the Stanley Cup final last season. They're not getting much love amongst the Locked On hosts. I can see why, but still, I thought there would be like a little bit of maybe Canadian bias.
I mean,
I
did you see the score of of their last game against San Jose?
yeah, I did. And I saw their score against the Buffalo Sabres too. So
Exactly. So I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but yes, the fact that they dropped by that much.
yeah,
Let's take a look at it just for a quick sec. Look at that. They went from 18th down to 29. That is a
that's a big drop.
yeah, that is a big drop.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure they'll bounce back soon and they'll start to win and they'll probably raise up a little bit. Um, I think a lot of people are wondering like how much of a fluke last year was, or like what's gonna kind of happen this year. And I'm not really sure. I don't expect them to be like third from the bottom for the rest of the season. Who knows?
Absolutely, who knows? But that is the power rankings. Maybe it might motivate some people out there. Who knows? But now let's go to my favorite part, and maybe to show people exactly how serious I am. I'm going to put another graphic, like a little ticker up,
Ooh,
BetOnline right there.
nice, nice.
My friends at BetOnline, because we're going to be making some predictions and picks while talking about some of the lines, courtesy of our friends of BetOnline.ag. So, Carl, here are the lines for the game. And we have the puck line, the money line, and total points, as I'll share, of
Okay,
course. So, Edmonton Oilers are 1.5 favorites at plus 135, and minus 183 money line favorites. Total points at 6 goals. So, we don't have any half points. So, if you can even say, obviously, if it'll be if it's a 6 exactly, it's a push.
yeah.
But those are the lines courtesy of Bet Online.
Pretty close to what we saw last week when we talked about the lines. Like we said at the time, it's still really early. We don't have too much predictions yet. I think the gambling is being a little bit more conservative. Um, I was thinking before you even said that the Coyotes were going to win 4-2. So push me
so
like right on that goal line.
so the puck line too. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers being 1.5 favorites. If you want, if you, to me, if you're gonna say the Coyotes are gonna win, I wouldn't even bet the cover because that's minus 155. Because if you want to try to make some money, plus 165 that they win outright on the money line.
Yeah. And that's probably the safest bet, especially with these two teams and like, you know, shaky goaltending from the Oilers, uh, just total question mark goaltending for the Coyotes. Don't know exactly what's going to happen there. Like, I think the Coyotes are in a position to win this one, but 4-2 was my best guess. It could be anything. I have like no confidence in that score that I gave.
So here are my picks, my betting picks I'll make. I always make at least 2 picks, or actually 2 is the best way to go because you can either make one, you can make the other, or put both of them on the same game parlay. Should
Sure.
you so want to do that? So my pick, I'm not gonna say Coyotes win. I'm not gonna put the bet on Coyotes win outright, although I do believe they will win, just because, just for safety purposes on that, like we were saying before.
Sure.
So I will say Coyotes. I will take those 1.5 points. So the Coyotes will either lose by 1 or win outright, and this will go over 6. Because I based off how the goaltending has been for the games, any of the Edmonton Oilers games, and how high scoring those have been.
Yeah.
It's safe to say this one was going to go over. So those are my picks. So Coyotes take those points, take the 1.5, and have it go over.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. We're talking about like weak goaltending for the Oilers, and again, they have Duncan Keith on their blue line. Like I feel like Edmonton's going to give up a lot of goals, and they're going to score a lot of goals. So you know, 6 goals, I can see that going over. In my prediction, I have it at 6 exactly, but my predictions maybe a little bit conservative, saying that the Oilers are going to be limited to just 2. That's by the Coyotes this year. That's maybe a little bit hopeful on my part.
So you made your score prediction. You said 4-2 Coyotes.
Yes.
I'm going to go and make this a fun game,
Mm.
if you know what I mean here. I'm going to say 4-3 Coyotes in overtime.
Overtime. That is fun. I'm just now thinking about like who the Coyotes would like put on in overtime.
Against the Oilers.
Yeah. Because like normally we'd see like Albrecht and Larson, who has like some kind of like defensive prowess on the ice at like against McDavid.
Chikrin, Kessel, and
I almost want to put Gus Despair on there.
Oh,
Two defensemen and a forward, just so like keeping Edmonton from scoring, because that is such a high-powered offense. Like I almost feel like
especially I guess it does make sense because Chikrin is an offensive defenseman too. He is a puck moving defenseman, so he can.
Yeah.
Uh,
And as is Gus Despair, a bit more of an offensive, as his weaknesses away from the puck. So still like a fun 3-on-3 matchup, but maybe a little bit more defensive for the Coyotes and kind of see what we can do.
Now let's get another even question here. So we game winning goal. We both have the Coyotes winning tonight. My game winning goal is going to go to because obviously, so I have it in overtime, but it won't be that starting line that we were just mentioning. I
Sure.
think the game winning goal is going to go to Nick Schmaltz.
Schmaltz, good pick. In today's 5 for Howling preview of the game, I have Lawson Krause as the player to watch. I think he is going to have a good game. I am going to go with him for the game winner.
Love it. So we both have the Arizona Coyotes winning tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, finally getting their first win. We're keeping our fingers crossed because it's going to be an exciting game. We will both be there at Gila River Arena in different capacities, but again, we will both be there. So we will be able to break it down after the game. Our post-game show won't be live, but we will have a post-game show for you guys. Just be sure to stay tuned after the game to know when that will become available. But until then, thanks for everyone for listening to this pregame show and podcast covering for the Arizona Coyotes. Locked On Coyotes is the show. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to leave a review. We are available everywhere you get your podcast. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you've yet to already. Once again, we're also available on YouTube if you've yet to go on there too. Again, we love the support that you've been showing us so far as we've been going on YouTube as well. Interact with us on social media. We are at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Ralbliano1, Karel Pavlock at Karel Pavlock FFH. Ask a question if you have any. We might answer them right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.